Hey everyone, we are on with Dana from Hemlane. How you doing?
I'm great. Thanks, Michael, for having me.
Excellent. Hey, so we're going to talk about rent collection. How it, there are lots of apps out there now. You got like PayPal and Venmo and Zelle and all these other things. I wanted to hear from you because again, I have a property manager and I'm like, that's my property manager's job to collect rent. But I know a lot of mom and pops are doing it on these apps, and I wanted to get your thoughts on it. Good idea, bad idea, risk, not risk. What do you think?
So I've seen a lot go wrong, and I personally have experienced a lot go wrong
Mm,
on them. I talk a lot about control and
mhm,
having control to mitigate risk, not control in a negative way, but just being able to set up a process where you can control the outcome based on the legally binding contract, which
mhm.
is your lease agreement, right? I'll give you some examples, but I'll start with some of the apps like Venmo and PayPal. First of all, partial rent is accepted, right? So if it's February 1st, which is right around the corner, and a tenant pays you $10 through that app, you've essentially accepted the $10. So if they actually owed $1,000, you can't send an eviction notice. It allows for partial payments, not full payments. And that's a problem for me, unless there's some exceptions where I say, with roommates, low risk, maybe I will allow partial payments because those are my customers. I want to keep my tenants happy. But otherwise, partial payments aren't a great idea if it's one person paying in the household because it can delay an eviction by another 30 days.
Yeah.
The other thing about these apps, and I've seen it with PayPal quite a bit, they've gotten a little bit better, I will mention, but their customer is also the tenant. And they are very tenant friendly. And so if a tenant pays their last month's rent on PayPal and then they move out, they can call PayPal and say, "Oh, I moved out early and that was accidentally paid. Can you dispute it and send it back to me?" Well, they will go ahead and claw that back.
Wow.
Now you're suddenly in a dispute and a fight with PayPal's team, which does not know tenant landlord law, does not understand the legally binding contract that you have signed. And you're going through with a consumer app, not a business app, to go ahead and try to dispute those payments or get the payments back, right? So those are some concerns with the apps. See something very similar actually with credit cards. We actually allow credit cards in our system, not by default, but it is an option in part because so many landlords were pushing for it.
Mhm.
And the education we try to provide is it's actually a terrible way to collect rent. One, there's a fee associated with it. So tenants are getting farther behind, right? They usually don't have the cash. That's why they're paying with credit card. But two, if you've ever called your credit card company to dispute a fee, it's probably one of the easiest processes. You call, you say, "Oh, I didn't, my credit card got taken." Yeah, all of that stuff, those last transactions, please give me the money back. And suddenly you're in a fight with a credit card company. We have gone forward on behalf of landlords to credit card companies, Visa, MasterCard, Amex, and said, "Here's the legally binding contract. The tenant was still there. Here are text messages and everything to confirm it." And, the tenant put in a dispute, and somehow the credit card company, who knows in their process who is actually making those decisions, says, "Oh, nope, the tenant won." They don't tell you why. They won't give you the point of contact, but they'll take those funds away. And so credit card is another one where, yes, in some cases, you just say, "Yes, I will accept that credit card and I'll take that risk." But it is risky. And you want to make sure that you don't have those emotional breakdowns later on that, "Oh, shoot, I thought I had this money and suddenly I don't. And now I'm in a dispute that's not the standard legal system of going to court. And now not only do I have to go through the dispute process with Amex or Visa or PayPal or Venmo, but I'm going to lose it. And then I have to go also to court." It's a very emotional experience. And that's why some of these things I don't think are great options. It also is just professionalism. Like, I know Zelle has limits on it. I think it's $2,000 or something like that, and 5,000 within 30 days. When they have limits, then your tenants are like paying you 3 different times. It looks a little bit unprofessional in that sense. And so that is one thing I would mention about control and payments and really setting up a good process so that you don't have that stress that something could go wrong. And again, most tenants who pay through Venmo and stuff, it's fine. It goes through, they're good people, they don't dispute it. But you have that one bad tenant who can go back and dispute things, and suddenly it puts you in a bad situation, in a position.
Yeah, that's interesting. I never thought about that. You're so right on credit cards and PayPal, the dispute, right? They could do that on purpose. And again, these are folks that are going to come down on the side of the consumer, right? The
Mhm.
tenant in this case. So that's great. The other one I want to go back to is how you started it, right? The acceptance of partial payments. That's a big deal, right? If you've been a landlord long enough, you've had people get behind and you've had stipulations and all of this. And you're so right. If you accept a payment, the tenant gets to buy more time, even if it is $10 in your example. That's why everybody on the stipulation has to come to my property management's office, or we just flatly refuse payments unless it's 100%, right?
Yeah, and Michael, along that same point, that's direct deposit too. People
Mhm.
say, "Well, can't I just give them my routing and account number and they go down to the bank and deposit it?"
Yep.
That you still have that same problem of partial payments where you are accepting it. It's physically being deposited into your bank account.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. Very cool. So again, folks, think about how you're doing this. Again, if you're a new landlord, realize that there are some professional tenants out there that will work the system for your behavior. So think about it. And yeah, you're right on Zelle as well, right? Be professional. Don't take 3 payments to make rent. It's kind of silly. So thank you very much for this. This is a lot of fun. I look forward to number 3.
Great. Thanks, Michael, for having me.
Yep.